Hi folks, it's the morning after the day before. As Celtic get one hand on the Scottish Premiership trophy with a well-deserved 2-1 win over Rangers at Celtic Park. This is Tino with the Final Whistle Show, joined here by Paddy. Paddy, your initial response to the big win?
Over the moon. I just a happy boy today. It was a tense 20 minutes come the end. I think after the penalty, we kind of let our guard down a little bit. The nerves started to creep in, and from the stands as well, naturally so. Just for the importance of the game, the magnitude of it. I just so happy to go over the line there and set us up nicely for Wednesday.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of the chat around and, from folk we spoke to after the game and stuff you'll see online, 2-1 going on, 4-5, maybe even 6-1. Is that a fair reflection?
It is, but it's not to say that, we should be really confident in this. And what I mean by that is that I thought that there is still a lot of work for this team to do, in my opinion. I get the games like that yesterday, they're pressure pots, the players are really feeling it. I think even Rodgers touched on it yesterday about the heat. I think a lot of the guys were really, really on the last legs come the last 10 minutes as well. But yes, we created plenty of chances, and we're talking millimetres with the offsides as well. For Maeda's goal, and if he's a couple of millimetres back, he's onside there. He take a great finish, some really good opportunities in the first half outside the box. Matt Riley finally finding his rhythm with his shooting, but just we did create plenty, but like I say, that's what we reflect on. And I think, just getting into these last two games, we'll look to up the tempo a little bit, because I think it'll be a closer final than people think as well. I really do. It's not to take anything away for this team. I just think that's a nice little reminder yesterday that we've still got a bit to work on as well.
Yeah, we'll get to a section later on in the recording, Paddy. You were at the post-match with Brendan Rodgers, which in itself must have been a pretty enjoyable experience. So we'll cover all of that in some of his comments. Very interesting comments. But one of the things that I have picked up on is the fact that he says we're now within touching distance, but we want to sprint over the line. We don't want to fall over the line and stumble into it over these last two games. He wants to finish with a bit of emphasis. And I think, yesterday absolutely sets you up to do so. But there'll be Celtic, they've got the Player of the Year night tonight, and we were chatting through, are they going to have a few beers? They might well have a few, but there's a job to be done. So they can't get too carried away. There's still prep to be done, and prepping the right way for what's now the next most important game against Kelly on Wednesday night. We'll crack on with the match action stuff, Paddy. Me, you and James done the pre-match on Thursday night there, and I think this team almost picked itself. We're not professing to be the great knowledge on football by predicting the starting 11, because I think most fans predicted the 11 we went with. The only question mark was going to be Nicholas Kuhn over James Forrest, but I think the general consensus was that Forrest and Maeda had to start. And those two were amongst real big hitters for Celtic on the day, and we'll get to that as well just shortly. What I want to touch on to start with is the fact that it was very clear, very evident from early on that Rangers were targeting Callum McGregor. Now, we heard the commentary during the week. I think it was Stuart McCall said it last weekend. Barry Ferguson backed it up during the week, basically saying, you need to go and sort him out. You need to go and deal with Callum McGregor. We commented on the fact that football's not like that anymore. You can't just go and land a few heavy tackles and put a marker down and all that. Let them know you're there, all these kind of things. But to me, the way Rangers approached it, you've seen the early tackle from Lawrence, then there was one from Sterling and a few others. It seemed to me that Philippe Clement had listened to those comments and applied that very approach. That's mad, is it?
It is. It shows that naivety to kind of think that he's the worst player. Sorry, he's the best player. Let's go and close him off. But how you approach that, like you say, football's changed so much. What they tried to also do on top of trying to man mark him, they tried to man mark O'Reilly and Hatate, and it just didn't work. It didn't work for them at all. They found themselves getting caught out of position far too many times, losing their men far too many times. And I think, obviously, I know we're going to come on to it, but how easy it was for Callum McGregor when he was in that right-hand channel to turn with the ball in the corner. Tom Lawrence is nowhere near him, Tino. and he plays in a lovely pass to come into the first goal. It's just very, very clever play from Celtic as well, because I think there's part of them that really wants that. They want the guys right in their faces all the time, because it actually ups our tempo a little bit. I thought some of our intricate passing in between the lines was excellent yesterday in the first half. A couple of times, your heart's in your mouth, are they going to reach there? But I think it was a brilliant bit of play with McGregor and Greg Taylor at one point.
Yeah,
and everyone was in the process of moaning in terms of get the ball away, including myself. And then the minute they pull off 3 passes, you're like, that's why they're there and we're sitting in the stands. It was really, really good play from us. We seemed so calm yesterday, Tino. That was the main bit for me. In that first half, I thought we were very measured in our approach and very measured in our full display. But one guy just strolled it yesterday was Callum McGregor.
100%. There's a fine line, Paddy, when you're trying to play through the high press, and you need to be brave about it. You can, as fans, you're right. You sit and watch it, and you play 1 or 2 passes, and I mean, right into the the last 5 minutes of the game, Varter-Vickers and Joe Hart are still doing this, and as a fan, you're just screaming to launch it and go long. But actually, you find that just comes back to you very quickly, and it takes a lot of bravery to say, do you know what? No, I'm going to play the pass. I'm going to trust my teammate, and we're going to work our way out. And actually, it's high risk, high reward. If you get it right, you get it really right, and the whole park opens up for you. If you get it wrong, you find yourself in trouble in the wrong part of the park. But I think Celtic, more often than not, had the bravery and worked their way through, and that's exactly what we've seen. You mentioned Matt O'Reilly, and we're going to cover a lot of him. He ended up being man of the match, and there's a debate whether maybe him or Maeda or Callum McGregor should have taken the award, but certainly Matt O'Reilly gets it in stadium. But even before his goal, Paddy, between him and Callum McGregor, and I think even James Forrest, Celtic had a few rangefinders. So the goal comes in 35 minutes, I think. Celtic had several opportunities where, and I mean big opportunities, the whole goal opened out, and O'Reilly fizzed a couple past Butland's left-hand post. But when it came at the crunch, he obviously found the right spot. But what about the spell of play before the goal? The first half hour, Celtic come out the traps, roaring home crowd. We're well in control of the game, aren't we?
We are. A couple of little moments just at the back again, where there's just that little bit of uncertainty, as I've spoke about before, about getting the ball out quicker. We've seen it all season, Tino. But again, what I loved yesterday was the kind of thing I was talking about, what Callum McGregor brings to those 2 centre halves. If the option of the pass forward to Hatate, O'Reilly, or your 2 wingers is out, McGregor's drop in to take the ball and bring it for himself into the midfield. And he was that was really key in our approach, because what that then allowed the players to do, you actually seen Greg Taylor and Alistair Johnston almost kind of come back to the inverted fullback role. They were moving into those positions and just creating more angles further up the park for us to be able to get the ball in to where we needed it to be. I thought the movement of Hatate, now it wasn't one of Hatate's best game, but I thought his movement off the ball, along with Matt O'Reilly, caused Rangers so much problems. There was a lot of intelligence in our midfield yesterday. And the one man for me as well that I just thought his reading of the game yesterday was incredible was James Forrest. Just knew exactly where he needed the ball, knew exactly where his teammates were. But as we're kind of been talking about, he's taking that extra touch for the positive side of it. He's not rushing anything. And when he has to play a killer pass, 9 times out of 10 it's a killer pass.
Yeah, very much so. I'm saying Celtic are in full control. We're not in full control because Rangers do create what I thought was a big half chance for Fabio Silva. Fabio Silva himself, I thought, was strange in his approach yesterday, but I suppose a bit more respectable in his approach in terms of the diving and the nonsense that went with the last time we played over at Ibrox. Actually, at one point in the second half, you see him helping Alistair Johnston with cramp, which is unusual. It's almost like he's seen the bad PR, the bad press that's come with everything before it, and he's tried to change his ways. But in terms of football and stuff, he ends up with a gift of a chance, a headed chance, I don't know, 7 yards out, fairly central, and tries to be cute, tries to glance it. He gets wrong side of Alistair Johnston, and for all Celtic's dominance, for all the pressure, we could have found ourselves a goal down.
Yeah, and it's those little moments where we're switching off, right? We've spoken about them before. Johnson shouldn't be allowing him to get in behind like that. But all that comes from a bit of some slack passing. I think it was Taylor. I might be wrong on that, but it was just, again, coming from those little moments of uncertainty. A lot of the times, we're seeing the likes of Liam Scales. He's giving up. He's winning some big headers, but where is he putting the header? That's a big thing. That's a big thing for me. A lot of the time, the ball's ended up back into the possession of the other team. We've seen that a few times yesterday. It was a bit of needless pressure that we were bringing onto ourselves. And listen, I thought Scales had some great tackles. He had a great header at one point as well. I think it was a Desser's shot, Desser's knock on that could have went anywhere, and Scales was there to kind of mop it up. But those little moments, and when you're trying to kind of defend and your backs are against the wall a little bit, I think that, yeah, any good defender knows, if I can't get this to a player, I need to get rid of it, but don't put it back into the other team's hands.
Yeah. Rangers shots on goal, efforts on goal all day. Have you seen it on target?
One.
Cyril Desser's goal. So don't let anyone kid you on. This was anything but a dominant Celtic performance. For anyone that's into XG type stuff, I think Celtic's XG was 2.99 and Rangers 1.03. The scoreline doesn't quite reflect the dominance, does it? Let's get to the opening goal. You know the man who starts the move for Celtic? Have you watched it back?
Liam Scales.
James Tavernier squares it, brings it into Celtic's midfield. Matt O'Reilly picks it up. Celtic then go through a sequence of passes, 14 passes no less, before it comes to Liam Scales, and a lot of guys play their part. It's a brilliant goal. Yeah. What I've been a bit annoyed about recently is this narrative about, and I think it mostly comes from the Rangers side, but I don't like it when Celtic fans kind of agree with us. It's just two bad lots. You know, it's the best of a bad pairing that wins this league and all that stuff. Celtic are a far better footballing side than Rangers. You watch how they approach a game yesterday where they need to win, and their only solution, their only strategy was boom it long, time after time after time, hope for knockdowns off of Dessers, hope for, you know, Silva, whoever getting in the back. They had nothing tactically. They don't play any sort of football. You watch Celtic's first goal, it is class from start to finish. And as I say, Celtic work it well. They end up down the right-hand side. It ends up at James Forrest's feet. And just to you know, follow up on your point about how good and how controlled James Forrest was, he's got a bit of composure to find the run that Callum McGregor makes, and it's a driving run. It's, you know, breaks the lines from midfield. Yeah. And Tom Lawrence just can't handle it, Paddy. He doesn't really put any great pressure on McGregor, who then finds his way to playing it into Matt O'Reilly. Talk us through it from there.
I just think that, you know, good point, and I know we'll come on to the press conference yesterday. O'Reilly spoke about, you know, hitting the ball, striking the ball, having those chances that you were talking to before the goal. And then he was speaking about the free kick as well. And he says, in my head, I'm telling myself, you're going to get one, because I was striking the ball well. He said I was getting a good hit on it. It was a clean hit. And he says, and I knew it was going to come. He says, because I was getting so much space there as well. And he really was. Lawrence was nowhere near him. Lundstram was nowhere near anyone at all yesterday, apart from that tackle on Johnston. He hits it so sweetly. It would take a very, very, very good goalkeeper to get down quickly for that. It's a great goal. A really good finish from Matt O'Reilly.
And as we know, Butland is a good goalkeeper. He made a great reaction save from Kyogo not long before the goal. And again, it's really good football by Celtic to work that opening. And on a day like yesterday, when there's a lot of there's pressure from the stands, you know, healthy pressure, but pressure all the same. There's a bit of anxiety, and you know, you go over the 30-minute mark having not scored the goal, and people do get a wee bit anxious, and there's a wee bit more prompting the players to just shoot, you know, just get your shot away. But the players remain patient, and I think any manager and any team would be proud of Celtic's first goal at any level of football. You watch, I don't know, Madrid and Dortmund are in the Champions League final. They'd be pleased to score a goal such as that. But no one was happier than Matt O'Reilly, because he knew he had a couple before that. And that just releases things for Celtic. It just allows you to relax. You get the inevitable VAR check, but, you know, we're all good after that. And then it's moments later, Paddy, and it's 2-0. A lot of noise pre-match, and over the last couple of weeks actually, has been about Daisen Maeda and how important he is to Celtic in general, but how important he is to this fixture, and how James Tavernier just cannot live with him. And that was emphasised at goal number 2. Real credit to Varter-Vickers for the pass. Now, I've just mentioned Rangers being a long ball team. There's a difference, though, between just hoofing it forward and hoping for the best and playing a long direct pass. It's an excellent pass. It's right into the path of Maeda, whose first touch, and it isn't always, but his first touch is excellent.
Yeah.
And at that point, when he's standing up Tavernier, if it was Tavernier, was it? It might have been Sterling. Anyway.
Shooter comes out as well, but Tavernier's lost him.
But he gets in such a dangerous area. Rangers are on the back foot. And then he squares it for Lundstram, who tucks it away beautifully. And you're in party mode at that point, aren't you?
Did you hear the stadium announcer?
No.
Goal scorer for Celtic, John Lundstram.
You say that, Paddy, and listen, we laugh, but John Lundstram can leave Scotland whenever he does, knowing that he's played his part in a title-winning side. So you can't ask him for that, can you?
No, you can't. You can't. Listen, I think they were trying to say last night, I'd listened to Sports Evening, they were trying to say that he's just ran into it and is bundled in. I think there's an element of him that he's trying to get a touch on that, or he's trying to pass it, like take the speed off it and maybe bring it to the two that are mixing, the goalkeeper and I think it is Davies. I don't know what he's been doing. Stadium's bedlam at that point, just we've taken right control of the game, and just what was a brilliant atmosphere pre-match as well is backed up. I thought the stadium was excellent. I thought the fans were brilliant throughout the game and supporting their team, and I just think when that goal goes in, that's the moments you love at Celtic Park. The roof comes off the place, but it's just seeing the reaction of the players as well. They were buzzing about it. Everyone was just elated with getting that goal, and I can't stop watching the video of Maeda running into the fans. It's absolutely brilliant. And then his wee post last night, did you see that?
I see. I've got it right in front of me. I'm going to read it out because I thought it was brilliant. So Maeda does what Maeda does, effectively gets the assist for the goal. I think on Lundstram, I think he was just caught in two minds, Paddy. Did I try and stop it here? Did I get a foot on it? He kind of went in between, and it's just one of those things. But Maeda, there's a great unique angle type video from behind the goal, and you see Maeda's momentum. It takes him beyond the goals, over the hoarding, right up into the stand. His tweet that you mentioned, I didn't know that if you go up to the fans, you get a yellow card. Oh, well, he's been a big cute there. He nearly ended up in the back row at the Lisbon Light stand. So for me, it's a yellow card all day long. But potentially the best yellow card Dice Maeda will ever get.
I thought he was on his way down for his pie and bottle at half time. He went, honestly. Just, he was outstanding, as were a number of players yesterday. I think it's very difficult to pick a man in a match. I really do.
Dice Maeda is a guy, Paddy, who's clearly just enjoying life, enjoying his football. He doesn't tweet much. He doesn't say too much. The odd occasion he'll thank the fans. But last week he was very genuine and sincere in his thanks for the support that he'd been given since he came back from injury. Clearly he was in a great place after the Hearts game and the reception he got there. And he's followed that up with yesterday. And he just gave you another Dice Maeda performance. A bit cheap and getting caught offside a couple of times, a couple of loose touches. But the pros so far outweigh the cons in that fixture. For Dice Maeda in that fixture. The positivity he brings to the game, the energy, the high press. And I said this before, what a boost to have him as a teammate. See if you're a Greg Taylor, a Callum McGregor, a Kyogo, you find yourself in trouble or needing a bit of support, a bit of work, he's the guy all day long.
It's the quietest I've ever seen Tavernier against us.
Extremely quiet. And all he could bring to the party was a couple of set pieces, a couple of corners. Maeda can't do anything about that. You can't tackle when a guy's taking a corner. If you could, Maeda would. But you just need to let him go on with it. No, I thought Dice Maeda was so important to what we'd done yesterday. Paddy, as you say, it's party time when we get the second goal, but then a minute and a half or so later, a bit of a Celtic thing to do. We lose concentration temporarily. Let me know your own thoughts on who, it's not the blame game here, but who should take responsibility. I think all of a sudden Alistair Johnson finds himself 2-on-1. Fabio Silva stands him up, then plays the pass to the overlapping Barisic, who clips into a dangerous area. I do think, having watched some of it back, that Sterling looked to be climbing on Greg Taylor, but maybe it's just a bigger, more physical, more imposing player getting up at the back post. When it comes back into the area, sorry, I'll come in a second. When it comes back into the area, should Joe Hart be coming out to claim it, and/or should Scales or Varter-Vickers be challenging Dessers for the header? What do you think?
So I'll go for when Barisic gets down the left, I don't know where James Forrest is there. I'm praising him. I thought he was excellent yesterday, but I don't know if he was still celebrating with Maeda in the stands. He's left him too exposed. He's left Johnston too exposed, and Barisic is probably their poorest player at the moment, but give him time and space. He's got a great delivery on him. For me, it's a foul. For me, that's a foul on Greg Taylor. If you watch it back, both hands are on the shoulders. He's using them to push himself up, and I think I'm surprised it never got looked at. Someone might maybe say that's soft, but the minute your hands are on the shoulders, no, that's a foul for me. You're using that player to your advantage and also pinning him down at the same time. I look at Cameron Carter-Vickers. I think Joe Hart is maybe feeding off him, because I think Carter-Vickers thinks that header's going to go another direction, and he stamps his feet down, he plants his feet, so he's no chance for the run up to try and meet Dessers. I think Carter-Vickers is too much in the way of Joe Hart for him to come, even though it is so close to Hart. I actually think it's the big man's fault. I do. I think he's maybe preempted it a bit too early, and it's just given Dessers plenty of time just to nod it in. I think if he just waits and sees where the ball goes first, he's got a chance of meeting. But I think he's tried to read the header before it's even left the head of Sterling. But yeah, I think there's a shout for a foul, in my opinion.
Just in terms of the big man's fault, do you mean Carter-Vickers?
Aye.
Yeah, okay.
Carter-Vickers, I do.
That's
watching it back more.
Yeah, and I think there'll be a few different opinions there. A few folk calling for Joe Hart. I think in terms of the foul at the back post, Celtic should be demanding the audio from the SFA on Monday morning, and we'll see if we can get a resolution there. I think overall the referees get the big calls right. We'll get to some other bits and bobs shortly, but I think by and large, nothing overly controversial, and that's exactly what we're hoping for in terms of pre-match. Joe Hart, Kenny Miller, we'll get to him. We're just about to get to that. Joe Hart, Paddy, has, I believe, 700th appearance in senior football and 150th appearance for Celtic. He's now in a position, we've been counting this down, he's now in a position where he's got 3 games left of his career, less than 300 minutes of football left. He's been huge for Celtic, hasn't he?
He's been great, and listen, I think for both parties, as I've mentioned, this brilliant partnership's coming at a good end, and I want it to be a really good end. I want him to go and win that Scottish Cup. He's been huge for Celtic, and what he done, considering the squad overhaul that we needed. He came in. I think he's been massive for Callum McGregor. I think he's been massive for a lot of the guys that have come into the team that haven't experienced winning, being a successful team, winning trophies. He's been huge. I think he'll be a big miss next season. I really, really do. But I also think that it's the right time for him as well. Johnny, who I sit next to, he's crying for another year. He's like, just keep him one more year. He doesn't have to start all the time. Have him around. And I get that. I get the pros of that. But I think by all accounts, it sounds like City are sounding him out for a coaching deal down there. And I think fair play to him. I think I wish him all the best in whatever he does. But as I said to you, I think you and I on the weekly show were talking about Joe Hart, and I say he's announced his retirement at the right time. Be switched on for every single game, and I think he has been.
He's been laser focused, Paddy, and he's played such a huge part. Actually, since from the moment he announced his retirement, I think that allowed him a clear head, and he's been pivotal. There's a number of guys that have been pivotal. Carter-Vickers getting back to fitness, McGregor and Hatate the same. The resurrection of James Forrest, Dyson Maeda and all that stuff. Several big characters, big personalities have stepped up for Celtic, and Joe Hart is definitely one of them. We think at that point, it's gone 2-1. We think at that point you're going to see out the half and regroup at half time. But there's a major incident just before the break, and it's John Lundstram. I don't know, Paddy, if at that point he's on tilt, the head is gone because he's caused the second goal for Celtic, and he's still a bit emotional or a bit fired up or trying to redeem himself. But it's a ludicrous tackle. So Joe Hart, he's under a wee bit of pressure from Silva. He plays out to Alistair Johnston and right back, who just gets his body across to protect it. I thought on first viewing, and it happens very fast, doesn't it? I thought on first viewing, a wee bit nasty, an easy yellow, and let's move on. But you see the VAR, it's not even a debate. You and I aren't going to have a debate about this, right? It is the clearest red card you see all day. It's high, it's studs, it's through the ankle, it's endangering an opponent, all these things. I think nobody on the planet thinks it's not a red card, apart from Kenny Miller. Talk me through his thought process. Do you think, I don't mind Kenny Miller in general. I think he's fairly balanced, but did he fall into fan mode at the time?
I don't know what's happened, Tino, to be honest, because he seems to be changing his story every time he talks about it as well. 1 minute it's, if VAR isn't there, the game plays on, and it's just the yellow card. He says, and these are big defining moments in football. This is going to have such a big impact, kind of thing. And he's saying, I don't like that in football. I don't like that natural side being pulled away. Now listen, there can be an argument for that. However, to turn around and say that it's not a red card because you can't judge a player for what speed they're going into a tackle at. Look at where his studs are. Look at if Alistair Johnston's foot doesn't leave the ground, he's broken his leg.
Yeah.
He's broken his leg. And this guy's still saying, he's changed his story. He's went with the VAR thing that I just mentioned. And then he's coming up with you can't judge a player in the speed that they come in at. Players have to run fast to get to places on the park. But he's left the ground. His foot is off the ground. His studs are showing, and he's planted his foot right into the side of Alistair Johnston's leg. It's a red card all day. And actually, I'm a bit annoyed. Column's not that far away from it, I'm a bit annoyed that it was just a yellow on the park. Unless maybe he's been behind Lundstram and not seen the contact. I don't know. See, for where we were sitting in the stand yesterday, I said to Johnny, when I seen the yellow card, Johnny was just like, I thought he took the ball there for where we were sitting. So there could be that side for where they call him, even though he's not sitting up in 405. But when you watch it back, my God, it's just red card all day. Crazy, crazy tackle. And he's probably ready just to walk off the park. He's not arguing about it, nothing.
Yeah.
Lundstram knew.
Often the response of the players around the tackle and the player himself tells you what you need to know. Patrick McLaughlin in the comments, and thanks to Patrick and everyone who's joined us here. I see a few different debates going on, and as always, myself and Paddy will try and get to some of your questions and comments if we can between now and the end of the recording. Patrick says, I remember Kyle Lafferty committing the exact same foul on Andy Hinkle and getting away with it. And I remember the very one, and had VAR been around then, Paddy, I think that would have been given as a red. And VAR yesterday, VAR done its job, right? We and most football fans of any team have berated VAR and it's ruining the game, and there's so many negative impacts that VAR has. But yesterday it done exactly what it was there to do. The referee hasn't quite picked up in real time the correct decision, and VAR does its thing and presents the evidence very clearly, and it's a red. Kenny Miller's argument was actually that in real time it's not a red. Yes, on VAR it maybe is, but in real time it's not.
No.
But VAR is the real situation. Now, when you slow things down to the nth degree and show stills, that's different. But this was a perfect angle, slowing the incident down slightly, and it's got to the right result, Paddy, and surely that's got to be the right thing. And I think Kenny Miller, who clearly fancies a career in punditry, he'll need to backtrack on that. He'll need to, I don't know if he's on Super Scoreboard this week or if he's doing some other media. He'll need to climb down and accept that he got that wrong, won't he?
No, he's not, because obviously he was on I think the BBC Sport podcast last night, so he doubled down on it last night, and then today he's released an article saying why it's not a red. I'm not backing down on this.
Don't back down, double down. That's a strange approach. Okay, well, we'll need to move on. Sorry, just finally, I thought James McFadden was very good on it. They were obviously having a debate, so you had Sutton and Kenny Miller in the gantry. You had James McFadden in the studio with Chris Boyd, Lenny and Ailey Barber, and they were doing their thing. And I think every single person apart from Kenny Miller, was saying it was a red, and Kenny was getting spiky, he was falling out with Chris Boyd, and someone in the comments, made the point, it's exceptional work by Kenny Miller to make Chris Boyd look like the sensible man in the room, but that's the way to play it out. Paddy, we get to half-time. It's 2-1. It should be more, but we are where we are. You're a goal to the good. You're a man to the good. What do you think the messaging will have been at that point, and what were you expecting from the early stages of the second half?
So I just think that losing that goal, and albeit we get a little bit of a boost with the red card, I don't think it would have been a comfortable changing room, to be honest. I think Rodgers would have let them know that was a disappointing goal to lose. But he would have been so proud of the first 35, 37 minutes and how well we had played to take the 2-goal lead. It could have been more in that half as well, as we've spoke about. But it seems to be a bit of an issue for us this season in terms of keeping control of games. not putting ourselves under too much pressure. And I thought that the reaction from that half time, coming out in the second half, we got our foot on the ball and played a bit of football, and it was very, very comfortable up until the penalty. I thought we were toying with them. I said to Johnny, I don't want them to take the foot off the gas, though. I think they need to go and bury this game. I really do. And I'll come on to some of Rodgers' comments about the same thing afterwards. But we looked really, really comfortable. We were playing very good football, moving it well. For me, it was a no-brainer that we would go and score more. I thought we're definitely going to get in behind them. They'll tire. But at 2-1, it's never comfortable, right? It's never comfortable. So, yeah, these are the little moments I think Rodgers will use to really get the guys fired up in the last 3 games of the season. I really do.
Yeah, I think he definitely will. You've got a situation, Paddy, and someone makes a comment. I'll dig it in a second, but yeah, Big Dom here, he says we played fine up until the penalty miss, which messed up our heads. And I think that's pretty accurate. You had a situation where Celtic came out full of confidence. Rangers made their change. They took Suter off, apparently injured, and brought on Ross McCausland. I think they went to something like a 3-5-1 type setup. I'm not entirely clear what they were doing. But you've got a point there where Celtic can really press home their advantage, and we were playing really well up to the penalty. What do you think of the penalty itself? It's a strange one. It's this kind of modern type thing with the players, the opponent. So I think it was it Diamante?
Diamante,
basically blocked Matt O'Reilly's ability to use his playing foot. You know, he basically tangles up Matt O'Reilly's legs, and O'Reilly feels the contact, and a split second later takes the tumble. What do you think? Clear penalty for you? Wee bit dubious? Any comments?
I don't think there's any clear or obvious error for it to go to VAR, to be honest. The contact's there, the players went down, penalty.
And I think that's interesting that Willie Collum went to VAR, and I think it's very messy, isn't it? It's very confusing, but when he goes to the screen, the question is, Willie, did you make a clear and obvious error? Not based on these stills, as it isn't it? It's did you make a clear and obvious error at the time? And I think Collum has been headstrong enough to say, no, I didn't. I'm happy with my original decision. There's a lot of time between the penalty. I don't know what there is. It feels like longer. How many? 4?
4 minutes.
4 minutes. That's a long time for any player in any game to have to wait to take their kick. There's a bit of mind games going on. There's a bit of psychology. Butland's out, walking around. The players are protecting the penalty spot. All the things you see in the modern game. And O'Reilly, we've now seen him hit 2 exceptional penalties. He had the dink against Butland in the 3 each game. He had the one just last weekend. He's lashed high into the top corner. This week he's done neither nor. He was annoyed himself. You know, you spoke to him post-match, and he's made the comments that something along the lines of he kind of get caught in 2 minds. But what was his take on it in the press conference?
So automatically, I think that was one of the first things he said. Really happy with the result. Could have been a lot better. He says, I hold my hands up for that. And then the question straight away came to about the penalty, and he says, well, I've been practicing them all week, and he says we had a feeling that we could maybe end up with winning this game. And what he basically went on to say was, when practicing them, he was hitting them really good, and he kind of worked on a run-up for a specific type of penalty. And he said that it was halfway through the run-up. He said, that's not what you've been doing all week.
Yeah.
He said, that's the moment I'd frozen, didn't hit the ball right. So he says, it's something for me to work on. Very honest to kind of approach it that way, but I'm sitting there and I'm like, just hit the ball. Just hit the ball. It was a very tame penalty, an easy read for Butland as well. He opened his body up far too much. But hey, I thought he was really good yesterday, Matt O'Reilly.
He was. There's no doubt about it. But it's the wrong time to change your mind, isn't it? And listen, you or I have no right to tell Matt O'Reilly how to take penalties. But generally speaking, whoever's hitting a penalty, whatever level, the instruction should be, whatever you decide, don't change it. If you're dinking it, dink it. If you're going high and handsome, go for that. But don't change your mind halfway through. And O'Reilly, I'm sure, will be doing his work on that. I fancy him, whoever it's against, to score his next penalty. He's that kind of character. Paddy, Rangers make a couple of changes. They've brought on Raskin for Lawrence. They brought on Yilmaz for Barisic. I thought Yilmaz was decent for them. He became a decent outball moving forward. They've got this thing going on. You might have seen some of the chat, on Twitter and otherwise between last night and this morning. They see Raskin as the saviour. They're turning around and saying, had he started, we would have won this game. Clement needs to hold his hands up. He got this wrong. Rascan's done nothing for Rangers for months, but this is the whole wait till Rascan's fit, wait till Kilmarnock gets his own players, wait till. And it's always a story. And they've had it in their gift. Let's look at the reality, Paddy. They've played us 4 times this season. They've taken 1 point from 12. So no matter what David Tanner tries to tell you on Twitter, when he's kidding himself on that it's Rangers' failings against the other clubs that have cost them, they haven't laid a glove on us all season. And whether it's Rascan or Cantwell, if you want to touch on him, they don't have the ability to challenge Celtic when it comes to the crunch.
What I found interesting with Rascan, there was a bit where Butland had the ball and he had the option to roll it out to him. He decided against it. I think he went long with it. And Rascan has a bit of a go at Butland. And you actually seen, I think it was Sterling and Diamanda both having a go at Rascan. So you can tell that I think it's an unsettled place. I think it's an unsettled team. You've got somebody like Todd Cantwell as well sitting on the bench, and after his remarks all season, some of the stuff he's come away with, got to just take that in the chin after having to sit and watch that. Clement was asked, was he fit? And the straight answer yesterday was yes. But we don't bring him on after John Lundstram's gone. So basically, I don't trust him to come into this fixture.
Yeah.
There's a bit of disarray there with that team, in my opinion. I think there'll be a lot of heads that'll leave there in the summer if they can sign players.
True. There's no doubt there's disarray. We spoke about it pre-match. This isn't just Celtic fans having a needle. You've seen John Lundstram. John Lundstram scores an own goal and turns around and starts literally pointing the finger at somebody. I'm not sure who it is, but he's blaming somebody else for him putting the ball in the back of his own net. Try and square that one off. Yep, you've got Todd Cantwell making a lot of noise online. Was interviewed 2-3 weeks ago and saying that he wants this title more than Callum McGregor. You need to get off the bench to do something about that.
I want it for there, mate.
Yeah, he had the Instagram post at the start of the season with 56 on his shorts. All that stuff. I don't mind that if you've won 56, if you want to play that game. You need to start winning things. And they've got a lot to say and not a lot to back it up with. And I agree. I think some of their players seem annoyed at each other. And then you've got the commitment question in terms of if John Lundstram's moving on and his head's already gone, if Barisic is doing the same, that's hard in a dressing room when you know that human nature at that point dictates that not everyone is in at 100%. Some guys have got heads elsewhere. And I think that's what eventually played out for Rangers.
You could see that, and I think that's where a lot of their fans' frustrations are coming from. Why are we starting these guys if their foot's already out the door? But the reality is that that we've seen manager after manager come through at this club, and the players seem to be getting away with it every time, and that's so good for us because they still put the trust in Goldson, they still put the trust in Tavernier. It only bodes well for us. There's a few good players that they've had come up against us, still not at the club now. These guys, that core that they have, are the reasons for so many managers coming and going at that football club, and long may it continue.
Do you know, the longer that core of players remain at Rangers, the better for us. I think they need a clear out. I really do. Listen, James Tavernier's not a bad footballer, scores some important goals, all that kind of stuff, but there's a mentality around James Tavernier and others that just doesn't allow them to move forward. And if Tavernier, Goldson, and various others that we've just mentioned there remain at Rangers, then it's not going to happen for them. Moving forward, further into the half, so you've got a few changes around about the 70-odd minutes. You've got Ida comes on for Kyogo, Kuhn comes on for Forrest, Tony Ralston comes on for Alistair Johnson. Ida had a couple of half chances, Paddy. I thought he could have put it to bed. Kuhn was okay initially, then got a bit quiet. But I want to give real credit to Tony Ralston here, right? He's a guy who, in similar ways to James Forrest recently, has just had to bide his time and stay fit and train hard and be ready whenever the call comes, knowing that the call might not come at all. Same as James Forrest. If other wingers had been playing well, Jamesy Forrest might not have done what he's done in the last number of games. And Tony Ralston's sitting there knowing that he's back up to Alistair Johnson. And if Johnson doesn't take the impact of that tackle from Lundstram, he probably completes the 90 minutes. But it's clear around about, in fact, probably before he came off, it was clear that he was struggling. Tony Ralston steps in. And I think Tony Ralston, in those closing 20-25 minutes, played as big a part as any in getting Celtic over the line.
Yeah, I think you're spot on. He's a guy that's just kept himself fit, just kept himself ready. He'd do anything for this jersey. He'd do anything for it. He would run through brick walls for this club. He's Celtic daft, Tony. And I think that what you see there is a guy that just knows what it means to the fans, knows what it means to the team. Coming in, he had a brilliant header away for goal, a really good cross in, and it could have reached the back post. And it's behind him, and he's just flung the head, like a backwards header to it, brilliant clearance. And then he goes up against, I think it was Lawrence, or maybe Rascan for the ball, and at the right back area. A ball that it was like a bit of a 50-50, and he just goes through him, takes the ball, takes a man, and some roar come up for the stadium when that happened as well. To go and throw yourself into a game like that, and you know the magnitude of them, as I say, that they're intense games, they're very intense games, and it looked as if he'd been playing the full 90 in the sense that he was in and about it. Well done to Tony.
He was up to speed the moment he came on, and he had to be, Paddy. You know, at that stage, you know, Rangers had no option but to throw the kitchen sink at it. You'll have heard the stat that in the 3 times Celtic have played Rangers with Philippe Clement at the helm for them, Celtic have gone 2-0 up in each of those games, and only at that point have Rangers started to make any effort to play football. And that says a lot about the mindset. You can only play when it's like, well, we're done anyway, we might as well, the shackles are off type thing. Rangers need to learn, and I hope they don't, but they need to learn how to play at nothing each and try and get a foothold in the game. But that's their challenge, and long may that remain a problem for them. But they've started to throw things at us. 2-1 is never enough, whether it's against Rangers, St Mirren, whoever, Ross County. You need to go and press home your advantage by getting that killer third goal. We couldn't do that in the day. I've mentioned Ida's had a couple of chances. Maeda's had a couple of offside ones. Did he need to stray offside? Possibly not for the second one. Anyway, by the by, so 2-1, you know, getting into those closing stages. And at that point, they're shelling it. And it felt like, you know, the cliche at the moment is it's a game of basketball. One team attacks, the other attack. One team attacks, the other attack. And as much as Rangers had no real penetration or no huge danger in their attacks, anything can happen. It can skid under a guy's boot, it can flick off ahead, and before you know it, they're in on goal. Callum McGregor stepped up big time, and I thought Liam Scales stepped up. I think Liam Scales is limited, Paddy, on the deck. His link-up play isn't the best at times, but when he needs to just defend and throw his head on things, he and several teammates stood up to be counted there.
Yeah, they did. Anything that was getting thrown into the box, for example, we know that's all they really have in the locker. They're not going to play in behind us with the ball on the deck. Scales, varter-vickers, Ralston, Taylor. We can say what we want about Greg Taylor, but he puts everything into those games. I thought he was really good yesterday as well, in the defensive side. And they knew we're not letting anything in here. It kind of took me back to the 2-1 game at Ibrox with Ange when varter-vickers had scored and Rangers were lobbing cross after cross. Tavernier and Barisic were getting to the half of our half and whipping it in for there. And Starsfeld, varter-vickers, I think it was Ralston in the day, were all over it. We're all over every cross coming in, and it was a bit of backs to the wall. Great to see. Very nervous for the fans, but great to see that we kind of dealt with that. But the big one that Rodgers is kind of talking about and his presser, and again, I know we'll come on to it, but we need to be better in those games where we've got the extra man. It's not been the only time this season we've been up against that, and we've not been clinical enough. And I thought that Ida's chances, we could say half chances. The one that gets played across where he's at the near post, he's not expecting it. You need to bury that. Kyogo scores that. I
agree. I think it's that way where instinctive strikers expect the unexpected, even if there's a chance the defender gets on it, anticipate him not, and there's a real sight on goal there. But he's played his part, Adam Ida. He's played a huge part in general in getting Celtic to where we are. But he couldn't get one over the line yesterday, and it does invite that pressure. But Celtic see it out, and what I thought was great, Paddy, there's real elation, there's real relief actually when the whistle goes, because as I say, you never know what can happen at 2-1. But I really enjoyed watching the players go around and doing their thing. I had to laugh at your comments last week about Rangers celebrating the 3-3 draw. They were a step away from putting the scarves around the head and giving it big, bringing the Waynes out the stands and all that stuff. But it was highlighted again. Celtic First, I'm sure you follow on Twitter. He made a great, I think it was this morning or last night, a great post. It was a video of that celebration. I say celebration. Rangers walking around celebrating their 3-3 draw. They completely lost it. They completely lost it at that point. You know, Clement's banging the chest and the fans are giving it big. You've drawn 3 each on a day at your home ground where you could have potentially put us to bed and get a real foothold in the race. That is the moment. You know, there'll be DVDs about this season at some point. That is the moment that do they still do DVDs? You know what I'm saying?
I'm going to be buying this season, I'm telling you.
I'll buy it. It's been an up and down. But that moment for me was the mental pivot where it all changed back in Celtic's favour. It all swung back towards us. So what about post-match, Paddy? The players in great spirits. They're, you know, the crowd are, you know, very few folk had left the stadium. You know, pretty much a full house celebrating the players going round. Callum McGregor, you know, getting folks fired up. Yeah. Brendan Rodgers remaining at the back, doing his thing. You know, a bit of fist pumping, but still work to be done. Yeah. You'll give us an insight into that in just a second, Paddy. But before we do so, you can't not mention Brendan Rodgers' record in this fixture. I believe it's now 17 games against Rangers, 13 wins, 3 draws, and 1 loss. 1 loss in 17 games. He's the master of this fixture. Tell us about your experience with him after the game.
It was incredible. Well, we're lucky enough to speak to Callum McGregor and Matt O'Reilly. 2 of them were absolutely brilliant as well. McGregor's thoughts on the game was excellent. Kind of spoke for how it was as well. Said that, you know, that we let it creep in a little bit after the penalty, and we shouldn't have done that. O'Reilly, as I said, spoke about his penalty miss, spoke about the spirit in the team, though, spoke about just how much they wanted it today, and you could definitely see that. You've got a media room clambering for obviously their sound bites, their headline, and just walks Rodgers. And listen, we can say what we want about the guy. I think there's obviously still plenty that will have their views on Brendan Rodgers, but he comes in calm as you like, takes his time, opens a bottle of water, pours the water, sits down, sits back, without even any questions starting yet, just has a drink, and it's like, right, let's go for it. Let's really look into this game. I can't remember who it was that asked the question that led to the comment about the novice, but he spends about 3 minutes basically just explaining what it's been like for him this season coming back and what he's been up against in terms of the media. And listen, I think that he's made little rally cries for Celtic throughout the season in terms of how he spoke to the media. Like, we're out this title. Apparently, I'm not up to the job. My team's not up to the job. All these moments have been really, really good for our players, because I think we went about our business really, really quietly this year. And again, it's been another season of noise coming from the other side. And I just feel that comes from a guy that's so clever in those media side of things, that he pulls away with that. What I loved as well, and this kind of goes into what I'm meaning about the next 2 games leading up to this cup final, there was an anger there. There was a serious side to it. He wasn't happy with the performance after the penalty miss. He says that we do need to know how to see games out. We do need to be more clinical. And especially that's when he brought up the thing about being down to 10 men. We've not done it enough this season, that we went and ran away with it. I then asked him about what's the message to the players in the last 10, 15 minutes of the game. I'd said it was starting to get a bit tense in the stands. And straight away his response was, well, first of all, they need to keep the ball. They need to keep the ball. We were giving it away needlessly. He singled out Rio Hatate, which surprised me a little bit. But at the same time, I'm sure Rio will pick up on it. And I'm sure Rio's been told about it in the changing room as well. But what I liked about it was, we know the calibre of the player. He's very good at bringing the ball forward. He's very good in the attack. But sometimes he needs to know just to keep a hold of the ball when it matters. So we've come into that final 10 minutes and we were losing possession quite easily. And I just thought that to come away with things like that, knowing just the importance of a fixture like that and what it meant for the club, for the team, for this season, I just felt it was very, very reserved. But what he got today was still the opportunity to see what he needs for next season. And what he got today was the opportunity to still remind these guys that, listen, we've got 2 games and we've got to get ourselves ready for a cup final. We cannot take our foot off the gas. And I think, just really, really good answers, some good questions, and just I could see a relief, but I could definitely see an anger as well.
What I love about that, Paddy, is it would be easy to sit post-match yesterday and just revel in the glory. You know, you're just about over the line, and he could easily have sat back, taken his foot off the gas, and just enjoyed the moment and taken the adulation that would undoubtedly, have been coming his way. But Brendan Rodgers is a man of standards and high standards at that. His comments, amongst others, was talking about the fact that he feels there was accusations at various stages this season that he'd been going through the motions, quote unquote. Brendan Rodgers has been going through the motions. He then reminded everyone that he's at Lennoxtown every day between 7:30 and 8, and he doesn't leave till about 6:30 in the evening. So this is like, every manager has different approaches, but some managers will rock up at 9 o'clock, get the few hours training out the road, and be up the road by lunchtime. That is not Brendan Rodgers' approach. And whether he's your guy or not, he is 100% professional, and his standards, as I say, are sky high. And the fact that he, instead of fully enjoying yesterday's win, he's saying we need to be better next game. Yeah. There's a game on Wednesday night that we need to switch on for now, and that's the next challenge. And it is the biggest cliche in football. It's the one game at a time approach, but you can actually believe it with Brendan Rodgers. Yesterday was the biggest game in town, but only for last week. Now, over the next couple of days, the prep is all about Kelly and focusing on what's required there. Celtic need just a point, Paddy, based on Rangers winning the last two games, which there's no guarantee of, but Celtic just need a point. Yeah. I think Celtic are going to go and blow Kelly away. There's this myth, that Celtic, it's a bogey ground and all that stuff. We've had a couple of bad results at Rugby Park this season, but don't kid me on that Kelly are a bogey team for Celtic. Celtic, I've said this a few times now recently, Celtic at full tilt take care of everybody in this country. Rangers, Kelly, Hearts, Hibs, Aberdeen, the lot. And I think Celtic turn up against Kelly on Wednesday night with a professionalism and a focus to go and get the job done and to officially get us over the line.
Well, that's it. We've got our best players back now. We've got a fit squad. So 100% we should be making sure that, we're ramping the pressure up in the next couple of games. Because I tell you what, they will have taken a little bit of confidence about how they came into the last 10, 15 minutes of the game yesterday. Cup finals, anything can happen. We are better than them. I'm not pulling that away, but that manager for me will have our players ready for the 25th of May, 100%.
How do you feel about Wednesday yourself? So 2 games left, Kelly away on Wednesday, St Mirren at home on Saturday coming. What's your outlook for the game during midweek?
I'm with you on that, T. I think, they'll be very, very happy with their performance. He touched on the Player of the Year awards and said, we'll enjoy it, but we'll not enjoy it too much. And I think that measured approach is exactly what we need. Obviously, we're not winners yet. I seen one of the guys in the comments here said he wants to go, get over the line, sprint over the line to finish this season. And I think we'll be gunning for Kelly on Wednesday. It's exciting. As I said, leading up to this game yesterday, it's been exciting for us. We've done really well. Out of the last 8 wins out of the last 9 games. Just we're playing some really, really good football as well. But it's just those little moments that we need to tighten up. Concentration levels need to be upped a little bit in the back. But this is when you do it.
Exactly that. Paddy, the comment you mentioned is from Colin Rodgers, who says we'll sprint over the finishing line, and that's the words of Brendan Rodgers. So hopefully another exciting game on Wednesday. And that's the thing, Paddy, we've got the cup final to look forward to now on the 25th of May. Huge occasion for Celtic, but there's a couple of games to go before that, and we need to remain really switched on. We'll cover this next topic, Paddy, in much more detail on the weekly show and the shows moving forward, but all going well, Celtic getting over the line. There's a potential windfall of at least £50 million from the new Champions League format. Yeah. What are you wanting to see in general in terms of the backing that Brendan Rodgers gets into next campaign? He's worked with a group of players who, not all of them are his players. It's fair to say that. Not one summer signing featured yesterday. Nicholas Kuhn came off the bench, Adam Ida came off the bench, but none of the 7 or 8-ish summer signings played any part. And that in itself tells its own story. So how are you hoping Brendan Rodgers and the club move forward going into next season?
I hope the work started. I really do. And I think, as I said, we've had those moments in the last, 2-3 months where we've seen some frailties in our lineup. That needs to be addressed. Games like yesterday really highlight the quality, the lack of quality that's through our team. But it also highlights how good some of our players really are. We spoke about, struggling to kind of give a man in a match. I look at varter-vickers yesterday, thought he was excellent. Callum McGregor, excellent. Matt O'Reilly, excellent. James Forrest, Dyson Maeda. Just really, really good, strong performances from them. But we need to close some gaps. We really do. And we're going to lose a good goalkeeper. I think that's priority number one, is making sure that we sign someone that's going to be a steady replacement for Joe Hart. So I think the work will have started. There's been a few murmurings about some scouts joining us as well last week. And yeah, I just think it's full steam ahead now with this manager. I think he's finally in his seat now. I think he knows he's getting backing from fans. And yeah, let's see what happens.
You're right, Paddy. He now seems very well, feet firmly back under the table. And I think he's energised by the prospect of what lies in store. See if he's not, see if he's checked out, see if he's just here for the money. He doesn't make the comments that he made yesterday. He was keen to fight his corner. And you can't do that until you get a result like yesterday. But he's a guy who seems committed to what Celtic are doing moving forward. Football's football, Paddy. Sometimes guys move on and managers change. But I think for the here and now, Brendan Rodgers is really switched on for the task in hand. The task in hand, as we mentioned, is Kilmarnock and Jerry Watt, that we both know. Check his profile picture, Paddy, if you can, on the screen. Jerry
Two
says,
handsome men.
Two very handsome men. He says, Kilmarnock are due one from us, and that would be the cherry on top. And that's the focus for now, Paddy. In the meantime, so obviously, yesterday was huge, such an important result for Celtic. Everyone stood up to be counted, but there's still work to be done, Paddy. So your final comments on the 2-1 win over Rangers.
Yeah, as I said, just probably more relief. I think that we know that we are a better team. I do think that, as I've said, there's still those little areas that we need to kind of sort out. I'm pretty sure plenty of fans will agree with that as well. Let's go and have a solid game on Wednesday night. I do think we could go and stick a few past them and just, see over the line in style. I would really like that. But I don't think you drop any performance. If we do go and win on Wednesday, I still think you bring that performance to the game on Saturday, because I just want these guys firing in all cylinders, ready to go for the 25th. But let's go and get the league first.
100%, Paddy. Let's go and enjoy that one. Listen, thanks as always, Paddy, for joining me on a Sunday, even if slightly hungover. We'll see how you feel for the rest of the afternoon. Thanks, of course, to everyone who's joined us on the live. There's a huge number of folks that have joined us here this afternoon. We really, really appreciate it. We really appreciate all the comments, and please do keep them coming. Thanks, of course, to everyone who continues to listen to the Celtic Exchange podcast. We'll be back, as always, on Monday night with the weekly show. But in the meantime, folks, very much enjoy the rest of your weekend. We'll see you again really soon.